Welcome back to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're tackling something that gets asked about a lot in the comments, and that is opal dust and silicosis and the relationship between them. This matters if you cut, grind, or polish opals on a regular basis, so let's get into it. Quick disclaimer, I'm not a doctor, I do have a doctorate, but it's in chemistry, so treat this as a scientific perspective based on info from research articles, not medical advice, because I am not a medical doctor. I've done videos before on mask safety and dust control, even really recently where I showed you what I'm using currently, but some have asked a few questions that I don't quite hit in those videos, so I'll do it in this one. Questions like how dangerous is carving opal? Or I cut wet, but I don't wear a mask, is that bad? A lot of people concerned about that. And even what is silicosis and why is it so bad? So I'll try to give more context and finish with a few recommendations at the end of this video and explain my reasoning behind it. So I don't actually cover what silicosis is a lot of the time. So silicosis is caused by inhaling crystalline silica. That's silicon dioxide arranged in an ordered crystal lattice like quartz. Quartz is the primary example for that. And I'm getting a little bit scientific, but I'll try not to get too deep into it. So respirable crystalline silica is a serious occupational hazard. It basically causes progressive lung scarring through cumulative exposure. So the more you work with it, the more often you'll be able to do little scarring in your lungs. Many countries are lowering their exposure standards, and here in Australia they've been really aggressively lowering it, with another proposal currently going through Safe Work to lower it once again. In fact, we've even gone ahead and we've banned things like stone bench tops, and now you've got to do the silica-free version instead. The question for us as opal cutters though is, does opal fit that definition? And that's where it gets a little bit interesting. The answer I'd say is it depends. So the scientific literature classifies opals into structural types based on X-ray diffraction. I've got a big XRD in my lab that I am a licensed supervisor for. Now these are not your typical classifications. Normally we classify opal by appearance or origin, like black opal, crystal opal, white opal, boulder opal, Ethiopian, all that kind of stuff. With the scientific definitions, most opal is classified as Opal-A, where A is standing for the amorphous. This is the classic gem quality precious opal. Most of the Australian opal, so Coober Pedy, Lightning Ridge, and Damuka falls within that. It's amorphous, it's non-crystalline hydrated silica. So in essence, it's just those, you've definitely seen it if you're into opal, it's stacked little silica spheres, so little balls, no long range order. And that disordered structure is actually why we get the play of colour. It's the diffraction of light through those little spheres stacked on top of each other, nice and ordered, and then potch, not so nicely ordered, so you don't get that colour diffraction. Because this lacks a crystalline lattice, Opal-A doesn't actually meet the definition of crystalline silica. Therefore, it doesn't really carry the same silicosis risk profile as quartz-bearing materials. So another example of it is silica gel. If you've been using it as a desiccant, you can get the indicator ones, they're a little bit different. But silica gels are also considered non-hazardous in terms of silicosis. Now there are two other opal classifications, that being Opal CT and Opal-C. This is where it changes a little bit. So Opal CT contains microcrystalline domains of cristobalite and tridymite. My pronunciation might be off for both of those, but both of them contain crystalline silica polymorphs. It's common in things like Mexican fire opal, Ethiopian opal. Opal-C is similar, but even more structured. Now, because both of those types of opal contain real crystalline silica structures, cutting and grinding them can release a similar kind of hazard and should be treated with the same precautions. Think of it as they are more jagged and structured so that they can cause that scarring to the lungs, whereas the amorphous type, you've got those little balls, and if you can imagine, those little balls are definitely less scarring. But then this is the catch. Even if you're only cutting gem quality Opal-A, opal has inclusions and has host rock in some cases, and guess what? That host rock and inclusions could be really heavy in crystalline silica. We're talking sand and other rocks. So Safe Work Australia has documented silicosis cases in stonemasonry and lapidary trades tied to composite and host rock materials, not just the main gem material like opal in our case. So the practical reality is you often don't know exactly how much crystalline silica you end up grinding when you're cutting up your opals. So my recommendations, regardless of what you're cutting, Number 1, wet cut whenever possible. Dust suppression is the biggest defense. It's not that difficult, it's not expensive. As long as you've got access to water, it doesn't even need to be flowing. You can see a lot of my cutting I do without flow of water, just a little tank underneath. That will eliminate so much. And if you know anything about risk assessing processes, elimination is key. That's number 1, that's step 1. If you can do it, you must implement something like that. So if you can cut wet, do it. Number 2, know your material. What's it made of? Does it look very crystalline silica heavy? And on top of that, depending on what other materials you cut, think about if there's any toxicity involved. Some materials are actually got a bit of a toxicity profile to them as well. So the crystalline silica might not be your biggest concern. And so you're going to need to get a good mask. And that's the third point. Use a well-fitting P3 respirator for any dry grinding or polishing. Even for wet, I still use mine. It's just another layer that just covers you. And I've covered this in a recent video. By all means, check that out. Worst case scenario, you're cutting dry. You've got no mask for whatever reason. You need at that point to be able to ventilate your workspace really well with an extraction system. And at the same time, that extraction system has to be able to capture the stuff that you are actually cutting. And I'll show you an example, a really, really simple example that I've just come up with recently and that I'll be implementing into the workshop. So you'll be able to see that firsthand really soon. So the science genuinely supports that precious opal, Opal-A, carries a lower silicosis risk than a lot of other lapidary materials, just because of that amorphous structure. But the moment it's Opal CT, Opal-C, or host material and inclusions come into play, that risk profile just completely goes out the window. So don't get complacent, but also don't panic. Cut smart, cut wet, mask up, and know what's actually in the material you are holding, and you'll be fine and dandy. This doesn't need to be a scary process. The fact that you can just cut wet and that will save you from 99.99% of the dust, because you're not creating dust, it's really not that hard to do. So yeah, if you found this useful, hit subscribe. I'll do similar videos like this in the future, and let me know in the comments what type of opal you cut most. I'm sure for a lot of you following this channel, it'll be Boulder Opal and Cooper Pedy. They're the ones that I cut the most, but I'd like to see what everyone's cutting out there. As always, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video. Catch you guys.